Hi, I'm Kristie Clayton, founder and visionary of ConvHERs. HER is an acronym for Helping Executives Rise. Welcome to ConvHERsations with Kristie, where we dive into real, raw, and inspiring conversations with incredible leaders. You see, at ConvHERs, we're not just a community, we're a movement, a space where women leaders rise together, support one another, and celebrate our collective success. Whether you're leading as a second in command, steering the vision as the visionary or founder, or driving impact with your company as a leadership team member, ConvHERs was designed for you. Our mission is to provide resources, coaching, and peer support that you need to grow confidently in your leadership journey. Through memberships like Female Executive Mastermind and the Lead Her community, along with events like workshops and summits, and even personalized coaching, we are here to help women embrace their strengths, overcome challenges, and truly thrive. And that's what ConvHERsations with Kristie is about too. It's a space to share the golden nuggets of wisdom that come from authentic, heartfelt, real conversations. There's no scripts, there's no fluff, just honest insights from leaders who are leading boldly and making an impact. See, I believe leadership isn't something you do alone. It's a journey we navigate, and we don't have to do that alone. We can do it together, because together we rise. Now, let's get started with today's conversation. I am confident you are going to love it. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode with Michael. Michael, I'm so excited to have you on because I want to dive deep into the topic we're going to talk about today. So I'd love for you to start by introducing yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Kristie. I'm Michael Burke. I'm from St. Charles, Missouri, which is outside of St. Louis. I'm a coach, an executive coach, performance coach, and helping all kinds of business owners and leaders. But aside from being a coach, something in your introduction really hit my heart. And you said, let's lead and live boldly. And the name of my company is called Live Bold Coaching.
I love that.
That really hit home. I really love that. So I just really help people be more bold in their life by commanding the biggest asset they have, their mind.
I love that. So one of the reasons we talk about being bold, Michael, so much is because, well, first of all, it's part of our core values is to be bold. But also it's a huge part of my personal life too, and it's one of my affirmations. One of the cornerstones of my life too is to be bold. And for me, that personally means that I will be bold enough to be the person who has the conversation that needs to be had, the one that everybody's shying away from. I'll be bold enough to talk about, the topic that everyone's, scared to talk about, the elephant in the room, right? But then it also is being bold enough to stand up for myself. And that is something I struggled with for a really, really long time. My early years, I was much more quiet and I didn't necessarily, I know, right? I didn't necessarily stand up for myself the way that I should. But then lastly, it really truly for me means being able to be bold enough to stand up for others who cannot stand up for themselves, whether, that's people or animals or situations. And so be bold is a huge part of what is part of my life too. So it's exciting to see it's part of yours.
100%. Similar things, like it was about courage to me, being bold, courage in the face of adversity, confident in the future, even when the evidence might not tell you to be so confident.
Yes.
Dare to stand out as an individual. Like, don't just sink in the background. Dare to stand out.
Yeah.
And then something else we share in common is just have an unwavering belief in others.
Oh, yes.
And those four things are my core values for coaching.
I love that. Well, listen, part of what really kind of shaped me and helped me, especially over the last couple of years when you and I met, gosh, I can't believe it's already been 2 years ago that we met in San Diego at the EOS conference. And then we reconnected again this year at the EOS conference. But one of the things that has really helped me, and you introduced it to me, is positive intelligence, or PQ. In fact, somebody recently, they corrected me and they said, you mean EQ and emotional intelligence, right? And I was like, no, this is PQ, positive intelligence. So, Michael, I'd love for you to share like what this is and, like how it can help people benefit them being bold.
Yeah. So, how I came about to this idea of positive intelligence, I was born with cystic fibrosis and given 5 years to live.
Mm.
And then as a teenager, I had obviously made it past that 5 years, but that whole expectancy, everything that came with having this really nasty disease really surrounded my life. And I let all of that affect my decisions for a long time. And then I heard the stuff in my head, making not great decisions, limited decisions. And I wrote a book about that, about living with cystic fibrosis and these negative expectations. Sent it to a friend of mine. And he said, Mike, you're talking about positive intelligence. So I read the book immediately. That was back in 2014. Knew it was going to be life-changing. It was for me immediately. And I just knew it was going to be something that could spread around the world, and it has. Mm-hmm. So what is positive intelligence? It's learning how to command your mind away from negative thoughts and emotions. Use those for what they're useful for, but then really use the positive brain, have positive intelligence to thrive. Negative emotions and thoughts to survive. Positive emotions and thoughts to thrive.
I love that. I love that. And it's so funny to hear you say, kind of share your story, because it's not, although they're not exactly the same, it is similar to mine too, that, when I was young, I don't share this very often, but I was walking across the street and I was hit by a car. I did a 1.5 somersault and I actually landed on the back of my head. And I spent lots of time in the hospital, going through physical therapy, through all of these things. And, Michael, it was one of those things that at a very young age, at 13 years old, I was taught a life lesson that you have a choice, right? You have a choice to wake up and see the positive in the world and be optimistic about things that are happening, or you can see the negative and you can go down a victim path, right? That's and great. For me, I chose, to be positive. Do I ever wish that I wouldn't have been hit by a car and I didn't have to experience all of those things? Sure. But it is shaped as, it's a part of who I am now, as with all of my life experiences, right? And so it's really interesting to hear you talk about, how cystic fibrosis has really impacted you. And it is a choice that we have, right? We can really truly choose to see positive and to kind of focus on those outcomes. But one of the things that gets in the way is, I love what you call it, saboteurs, right? And so kind of share saboteurs, what they are, and how in the world do I figure out what mine are, and all those kind of things.
Yeah. So this positive intelligence framework, it's an operating system for the mind, if you will. And the creator, he's a researcher, brain science guy, psychology, but the terms aren't very memorable, coming out of science. So he's like, how can this be memorable? How the brain sabotages your life or serves you. So when our mind isn't working in our best favor, we call that sabotage. When we're humming right along with curiosity and innovation, and we truly are seeing the possibilities in life, we call that sage. And what I like most about this is every human brain on the planet, no matter how successful you are, these things are happening in the human brain. It's just neuroscience. Mm-hmm. And there's this chief saboteur, if you will. And I'd just like you to think about any time in your life where you doubted your capabilities as a professional, as an athlete, as a mom, sister, daughter. Did you ever doubt your capabilities? Did you ever feel like maybe you weren't worthy of success? And have you ever lowered your expectations for what you thought possible because maybe the numbers didn't show great possibilities? or someone got in your head and said that that wasn't really possible. What that does is those are reoccurring thoughts that we have about our capabilities, our worthiness, or just what's possible. And those sabotage not only our happiness, but our performance in relationships as well. Quick example, I'm 15. I pedaled myself on a bicycle up to the library to find out about cystic fibrosis. I read in a medical journal at 15, my life expectancy was 18. And there were no living adults. And in my 15-year-old brain, I was certain I wouldn't make it to 55. Right? I thought I would suffer along the way. Who would want to be with me? Like this, all these thoughts just popped in my head instantly. All of those were lies that I was telling myself. And sabotage, I was a happy kid. I was pretty successful. I was the youngest director of sales for Omni Hotels. But these thoughts were really dictating my decisions. And then one day I heard them. And I heard them for the lies that they were. I was 31, really successful, had wonderful relationships. And that was the moment I made a promise to myself to never have those thoughts run my life again. Mm. And that kicked off a whole new journey of my life. And that's what eventually turned me to positive intelligence. So hopefully the audience now can see there's this master saboteur in our brain, creating self-doubt. Then out of that self-doubt, out of those little voices I had about living long or being alone, some behavior popped up out of that. I started avoiding difficult things because life was already too hard. I got real restless. Like I only had a job max 4 years. I always did well. I was a high performer, but I was always looking for greener pastures because of this life expectancy thing. I was restless. And then the final one that got me was a victim mindset. Now, not in the traditional way. Like I went and did hard things. I climbed mountains and moved around the country to become the youngest director of sales as a fixer. Like I went into hard things. Where this victim got me is I took things personally. So feedback, I couldn't separate. I took it personally. When people were upset at cystic fibrosis, I felt a personal attack. So it shows up, that victim doesn't show up in a traditional sense for me, but I used to take things quite personal, and you could see how that would be sabotaging.
100%. So Michael, but I'm curious, like how you have said, like it shows up different for me. So when we're thinking about saboteurs and things that, our brain does, how can we identify those? How can we see how it's showing up for us, right? Because like for me, imposter syndrome is the kind of the way that I've identified it. And I started to recognize that I had a comparison was my big imposter syndrome, right? I would compare myself to several different people and see that, wow, they're leading companies that are larger than me. They're doing things that are bigger and different. And all of a sudden, like I couldn't see anything that I was doing well. All I could see is what everyone else was doing well. Right.
Yes.
Yep. And so my imposter syndrome, that negative voice for me was just telling me that I wasn't good enough and that I'll never be able to do the things that they would. Oh, friend, the negative things my voice would tell me is horrible. Like they were horrible, horrible things.
Yeah.
So I was able to sit and identify that. But I'm really curious, like, how can people really identify what saboteur is showing up for them and how it's showing up for them?
Okay. So the comparison is specific, not everybody does that comparing thing. Mm-hmm. Many do. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the hallmarks of self-sabotage. The way you can tell globally if you're sabotaging is listen to those voices or thoughts in your mind. that doubt your capabilities,
Mm.
doubt your worthiness, or lower your expectations. Listen out for those when you're not feeling confident, and you'll be able to search your thoughts and find out this thing we call the judge, how the judge is impacting you. There is a specific way beyond the self-reflection you can find the behavior that that judge creates. So when you're comparing yourself and you're feeling that imposter syndrome, your mind really has a small set of behavior that comes out of that. You might avoid. You might people please. You might hyperachieve.
Yeah.
You might go rational. You don't like emotions, so you go hyper rational. You might get real stickler, like perfectionism. I'm going to show them through perfectionism that I'm capable and worthy. Some people are hypervigilant. Some people are victim. So there's 9 of these little characters that show up in our behavior, and you can take an assessment through Positive Intelligence. You can go on their website, or people can find that through myself or any other positive intelligence coach, and see which behaviors are showing up. And there's very crisp and clear definitions to those. So those are pretty clear. Now, to find out how they're showing up in all their subtle and nuanced ways, that's a little tricky. And that's when support might be a proper thing.
Yeah, I can definitely imagine that. And you're right. What you described about somebody who does comparison, several of those are the things that I do, right? And yeah, so that perfectionism, that's for sure one that shows up for me a lot.
Yeah. And what's encouraging to me, I like when clients tell me they're saboteurs, it comes real clear to them. I get this big dumb smile on my face. And I have to tell them, I'm not smiling at your pain. I'm smiling because now you have a choice to do something different. The awareness is there. These thoughts are no longer going to dictate your life like they have been. And you're going to feel so confident. You're going to break through so many ceilings. That's what makes me smile.
Yes, I could not agree more. It was really, truly when I finally realized what was happening, and that I realized I could do something about it that made the difference, right?
Yeah, Kristie, I think that's what truly excited me the most is there's a practice. Mm-hmm. There was a practice I could make an effort at to reduce those saboteurs and then elevate my strengths, the Mike Burke strengths, my unique strengths. When we lower the saboteur activity in our mind, that leaves a huge gap of potential for something to fill in, and that's our strengths. Mm-hmm. And there's a daily practice you can do to reduce that activity in your mind, and it's just brain science, and we know how to do it.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing?
Yeah. So the reason we take a few minutes to tell people what a judge is and these saboteurs is because without a practice or without the awareness, what are you practicing?
Right.
So before I knew there was this restless thing, I didn't know what to practice out of my mind. So build awareness first. It's critical to build awareness. And then in the moment, now this comes back to EQ, emotional intelligence. In the moments where I'm feeling like an emotional hijacking because my judge, like, Mike, are you sure you're smart enough? Mm-hmm. Now I've trained myself to hear that voice. I can feel it actually in my body. Like I've got this feeling of it, like in the pit of my stomach, that goes along with that thought. As soon as I spot it, I disengage that with one of my senses. So if I was to say to myself, stop thinking, I would start thinking about how to stop thinking.
Yes.
Right. And then I get all in a frustration spiral. I can't stop thinking. And now I've got more negative thoughts going. Mm-hmm. So we use one of our senses to snap the thinking brain, because your sensory brain is different than your thinking brain. And then at the same time, it's fascinating what happens. by engaging in a sense, you're using a part of your brain that needs oxygen, so we can see the blood flow moving from the negative thinking brain into the sensory brain and also into the positive thinking brain. We can see the brain activity changing under functional MRI machines, and you do that with one of your senses. This is how simple it is, and this is how we first start a routine. When you wake up in the morning, maybe the first thing some people do is take a shower, and you feel the water hit your head.
Yes.
And that snaps negative thinking. If you're brushing your teeth, you can really feel the toothbrushes on your gums and teeth. That snaps negative thinking because you're using a different part of your brain. And Kristie, if you do this regularly, not perfectly, but regularly, you actually build a mental muscle. That overrides the negative part of your brain. Maybe we try to get an example. Have you ever known anybody who has like a knee-jerk reaction?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
That's this negative part of your brain, the amygdala, just taking over because it's real instinctual. But we can train that hijacking out of your response and train in a more measured response, a calm, cool-headed response. And it's just like building, if I want a big gun, I got to lift weights, right?
Right.
Well, you can lift weights for your brain.
Oh, I love that. And so much of what you said is so true, because you're right. The very first piece of it is you really do have to have an awareness, right? You have to be able to identify like what's happening and just bring that awareness to what's going on. And it's so interesting to hear you talk about this too, Michael, because I think there are things that my body did without me even like consciously knowing. Because I'll tell you, when I'm going into moments of imposter syndrome, of the saboteur taking over, and she has a persona and a name. My negative inner criticism, her name is Betty. When Betty is just yelling at me, right? My body starts to do things. And one of the things that I've noticed is that I will actually like pinch right here between my thumb and my finger. And that's almost like pulling me out of what is going on in my body, and getting, starting to hear her more and more. And I'm like, well, wait, I've got to get out of this, right? It's almost like an instinctual, I've got to get out of this mode. And for whatever reason, this little pinch right here, it starts to pull me out.
Well, that's why it's a sense. In the sense pulls you out. It could be breathing, it could be sight, it could be listening. We actually teach people how to do this in board meetings. Because you can't close your eyes, you can't do some of these exercises when you're meeting with people, but we teach some advanced ways to just have that calm, clear-headed, laser-focused part of your brain engaged so the emotions don't rise. And sometimes we don't even say things like, because we have that much executive function going on, but your face might change. The tone of your voice doesn't match the words. Your body language doesn't match. And people are really good at picking up inauthentic, incongruent pieces of your communication.
Oh, that is so true.
So these simple techniques: command your mind, command your emotions, and command your actions.
I love that.
I
love that because my best friend loves to tell me all the time. She's like, fix your face. Like my face are like captions, right? My face just gives away. It's like a book that people can just read. So if I'm feeling something, or if I'm sensing something, you can tell. And you're right. My voice changes, my tone changes. And so just being self-aware of all of those things can be really, really beneficial to us as leaders.
Yeah. The awareness part is something we call insight coaching. I am really good at helping get in here, out. And we call that an insight. I think the easiest way to explain it is if you're ever in the shower or driving your car and you get an aha, that's an insight about something you've been trying to figure out. And we don't have to wait for that moment in the shower or in the middle of the night, like aha, we can be really intentional through a coach. A coach can pull that out of you so it happens quicker. And then once you have the aha, the coach part of insight is clarity. So you pull the aha out and then get real clear on it. That is the art and science of insight coaching. So boom, we get the insight. Now, here was the frustrating part for me as a coach. I was really good at getting insights. Clients would say, oh my gosh, Mike, that's going to change my life. Then 2 weeks later, I would just follow up in conversation with them. I'd say, hey, how was that insight? They'd say, what? You said it was going to be life-changing. So I knew my profession needed something. And so when this positive intelligence, and the program is called mental fitness, like we're building mental muscles, I run the insight coaching and the mental muscle building in parallel. So when we get the aha, we get the insight, we put it in a memory. And that's the mental muscle building. So what it does is we keep moving forward without the backsliding.
I love that. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So, I know I feel like I could talk to you probably for 3 days, and we could still probably talk even more and have plenty to continue talking about. But I want to know, Michael, is there anything I haven't asked about positive intelligence and things that you really feel is pertinent for people to know?
Couple things. It's about speed. We can all get the insight. We can all get resilience and focus. The positive intelligence is an accelerator to that. Fast focus, rapid resilience, instantly reduce stress and burnout. They're all related, by the way. All of these are related in brain activity. Bold execution without holding yourself back. Yeah. All of these can actually be trained into your brain, like lifting weights for building muscles. So that's the big thing. Train out the sabotage, train in the strength. Potential goes crazy good.
Yeah.
And then just personally, I always thought CF was the curse of a lifetime. And in my reflections, like trying to break free from that, I had the moment, Kristie. And it was like some formal reflection. And I came to the realization that this thing ever present in my life was the weirdest gift of a lifetime. And I said those words to myself. This is the weirdest gift ever. I have been on the receiving end of so much love. It's an embarrassment of riches. People coming out of nowhere wanting to help me and support me in so many ways. Without the push of CF, would I have ever run one marathon, much less 9, much less 20 halves and an Ironman? I don't know. But the presence of CF and wanting to be bold in its face has pulled me to so many, many good things in my life. So positive intelligence, I stumbled across that years and years, right? The positive intelligence framework gets people there sometimes as quick as 7 weeks. It's a 7-week program. And if they don't make that initial bam moment like I had, we get them on that road. So they don't have to belabor over this for years and years.
Oh, I love that. And listen, you just you share what you just did with the bike. You got to do it on the last day of CF month, and share what that is, my friend, because that is such an amazing experience that you just had.
Yeah. So May is Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month, and on this Saturday, the last weekend of Cystic Fibrosis Awareness Month, I participated in the toughest bicycle race in the United States. Off-road in these Flint Hills of Kansas, unpaved roads, like gravel roads, a lot of elevation, And what's remarkable about it isn't the race or even me. It's my lungs were so damaged from cystic fibrosis just 5 years ago, I couldn't. I couldn't do these things. I once ran marathons, then the disease took over and I couldn't. And then through the miracle of the human spirit, finding drugs, raising money, we found not a cure, but a functional cure that boosted my lung capacity from 60% of normal to 85%. I once could not gain weight. Like I took 13,000 pills just to try and gain weight, 13,000 pills a year. Wow. I've gained so much weight. I have had to go on a diet, and you can tell I still have some to lose. Like this remarkable cystic fibrosis journey is actually rooted in positive intelligence, innovation, curiosity, empathy for others, love for others, and wanting to do things in bold action. Allowed me to ride 55 miles, 1,300 feet of elevation, faster than half the field at 55 years old.
Oh, I love that. Oh, friend, that is so good. So tell me something. If you had a kid that was sitting across the table from you right now that is going through the same thing that you went through and are going through, what would you say to them?
It's my favorite thing to tell every human being who will listen. Everything you need to navigate the hardest things in life is already within you.
Yes.
It's all already there. You got to see it. You got to believe it. And you got to use it.
Oh,
but it's all in there.
That is so good. So good. And what a way to transition our conversation. You brought me to tears there. Wow, Michael, thank you for this conversation. This was absolutely incredible. And congratulations to you for really, truly like seeing the positive and confronting this head on and not letting it hurt you in any type of way. So I just want to acknowledge that in you. And then I want to share, how I end all of my conversations with 3 rapid fire questions.
Yes.
So if you don't know, honor, empower, and inspire means so much to me. Honor is really, truly thinking about a woman of a past generation that you would like to honor and recognize. Who would that be for you?
All of the amazing, amazing mothers I've met who are raising kids with a chronic illness. Unsung heroes, like particularly my mom, just different generation. She was more of a stay-at-home mom, but holy crud, did she whoop cystic fibrosis. She took the brunt of the news. She was at every doctor's office. She had the hard job and didn't always get the recognition even from me. And so for all the unrecognized women who blazed trails in the past, that's who I want to honor.
I love that. Moms are special people, aren't they?
What like about, it wouldn't, well, you just underappreciated.
I totally agree. What about a woman of a current generation, a woman that is in business or in leadership today? Who is a woman that either empowers you to be your most, or who do you hope to empower?
This will be, again, like a group of women. Anybody who's breaking molds is squarely, I'm in their corner, and they give me so much. And however that molds be broken can be very unique. But I am very fortunate to coach many, many women, and they're in jobs where it's maybe a male-dominated deal or God only knows what, but they're breaking the mold. And they're being bold. And of course, anybody being bold, I am all about. So yeah, breaking those women that are breaking molds.
I love that. I love to, I have a sticker on the back of my laptop that says, put your shoes on, ladies, because the glass ceiling is breaking, right? I love 100%. That.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Michael, last but not least, who is a woman of a future generation that you hope to inspire?
Well, I think of family so much, and I've got 3 young nieces. And I just want the best for them.
Mhm.
They're so smart, young women, and they're driven like all the Burke boys, right? They're just like their uncles. And, they're all pushing. One wrote a book, one's a doctor, the other is, doing her math degree, whatever it is. They're just pushing forward, and the future is incredibly bright for all of them. And they just, any way I can help people see that their individual future has very few limitations. Certainly the hardest limitations are the ones we put on ourselves. So I just want those young women to know that. So many opportunities. Don't get in your own way through sabotage.
I love that. That's beautiful. And you're right. The future is bright, and your nieces are very lucky to have you in their corner, my friend.
Well, I feel the same about them being in my life.
Oh, I love it. Well, hey, Brent, I knew this would be fun. Thank you so much for coming on, having this open conversation around positive intelligence, about your experience. It's really been fruitful, and I know there's a golden nugget in here that people are definitely going to get.
I can't thank you enough, Kristie. Very fortunate to met you 2 years ago, and for you to invite me into the Herverse. I feel it's very honoring, and I'm full of gratitude.
Oh, well, thank you for being part of it. We all thank you so much. If you want to connect with Michael, I definitely encourage you to. He's an incredible inspiration in so many ways. And I'll see you again next week. Y'all have a good one. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of ConvHERsations with Kristie. I hope you're walking away with a few nuggets of inspiration, maybe a new perspective, or just a reminder that you're not alone in your leadership journey. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend, drop us a comment, or tag us with your favorite takeaway. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep showing up, keep leading with heart, and keep building the kind of life and leadership that feels true to you. I'll see you in the next ConvHERsation.